And as unfair as it may feel, there is literally nothing we can do about it. There is nothing to fix, especially not externally. So that sounds pretty bad. Hello there, everyone. Welcome once again to the channel. My name is Mars Molina, and I am a professor of yoga, spirituality, and I use these and other tools to support my life and to teach as much as I can regarding how we can use tools of ancient knowledge for tranquility, health, and prosperity in our daily lives. And in today's video, we are talking about an upcoming transit of new moon in the sign of Anuradha, which is one of the 27 signs of Vedic astrology. But I am also talking about Mars, I'm talking a bit about Saturn, and I'm talking about Mercury retrograde, and how all these factors that are coming together are painting an interesting picture for us to watch out, be prepared, be ready, and know how to best navigate this upcoming wave of events. The upcoming new moon takes place on the 20th of November in the sign of Anuradha, which I mentioned is one of the 27 signs of Vedic astrology, but it is also one Scorpio sign. See, as I've mentioned in other videos, every single sign in Vedic astrology is also correlated to a sign of the 12 zodiac signs. So what that means is that each of the 12 zodiac signs has 3 Vedic astrology signs within it, and Scorpio is no exception. In Vedic astrology, Scorpio is divided into 3, which are Vishakha, Jyeshta, and Anuradha. But this new moon that is upcoming is taking place in Anuradha Nakshatra. So let's talk about what that means for us and what that can mean for you in particular. The energy of Anuradha is very emotional, but also very transformative. And these two need to come into a conjunction. They need to come together so that whether you're an Anuradha native or you are going through certain experiences during the current transit, it allows you to go to a new stage, a new transformation, meaning you can use your emotions intelligently to support yourself to go to a new stage where you are less bound by limitations of your own emotional content. This new moon brings themes of Scorpio itself, like I mentioned, depth and transformation, and the emotional component will be very strong, and it will allow us to have a renewal. Anuradha itself, the sign, is ruled by 2 planets, which I mentioned earlier, Mars and Saturn. Scorpio, as a sign, is correlated to the planet Mars. Each of the 12 signs is correlated to a planet, and there are certain signs that are ruled by the same planet, such as the case with Aries and Scorpio that are both ruled by Mars. But I did mention that each zodiac sign is divided in 3. So Scorpio has Vishakha, Jyeshta, and Anuradha, and each one of those 3 is also sub-ruled, or ruled specifically, co-ruled you might say, by its own planet. So Scorpio Mars, Anuradha Saturn. So Anuradha event or an Anuradha person will see that theme of the combination of Mars and Saturn. And the moon here activates a renewal of these energies. But if we really look into what Anuradha means, it'll be a renewal of emotion, a renewal of how we can use that emotion to be transmuted, to fuel our transformation. And it is a renewal of relationships, very particular here for relationships of friendship. So not necessarily your family relationships, not necessarily your partner, your parents, grandparents, children. You will see that this has more to do with your closer circle, and it will have some repercussion with that bigger circle out there. I should mention, however, is that this may have an impact on your relationship with your mother, or if you're a woman, you have children, then it may actually impact there, more so with you as a mother than with father or any other figure. So Anuradha, like all Vedic astrology signs, is ruled by a deity, a god, and the god of Anuradha is called Mitra. Mitra is the god of friendships. He is also the god of certain deals. He is a god related to the sun. He is a god related to gold, and he is also a god of the proper measurement, the right measurement of things, which is a very important lesson that we can learn during this period, the right measure of things. During this period, therefore, you will see that there's a possibility to use the emotional components that you're experiencing to deepen your relationship with your friendships and go onwards on a new direction and a new growth with your friends. But it may also mean the end of some friendly relationships, that you will no longer be connected to some of your friendships. This is neither bad nor good. And one note that I will explain further is that the experiences that you're currently going through, if you're having an argument, a conflict, a confrontation, a discussion with a friend, or with anyone for that matter, that is not what will tell you whether or not the relationship as a friendship will continue on. What will tell you whether or not that will continue on is something a little bit different, something deeper. And that's what's important. Whether the relationship goes on or not, it does not relate to the conflict. Actually, it will relate again to the themes of Anuradha. And in this case, these themes are whether or not you two as friends are aligned in your hearts, in your goals, in your aims, in your values, in your ethics, and what is it that you want to get out of life. So it may take you both, or it may take that particular friendship circle to a new level on which you can realign, or even sometimes, if you're younger, discover and rediscover what are your shared goals, what are your shared values. And you'll see that no matter the conflicts or the absence of conflicts, no matter the conversations or absence of conversations, no matter even the chemistry that you may have with these people, if these goals, if these aims, if this faith, if these principles don't align, it is possible that these relationships will be put into the magnifying glass and they may be ending during this period. You see, Anuradha literally means to follow Radha. And to make a long story short, Radha is an individual of the Hindu mythosphere who is an extremely powerful devotee, and she follows her Lord. In other words, she follows God. So an Anuradha person, or a person that has many placements within Anuradha, they have that ultimately at their core in their heart. They want to follow God, whatever God may be for you. Again, you may not be a religious person or a devotional person by any sort, and that is fine. But you will see that this person has at their core ethics, values, aspirations, and goals that are of a very good nature, especially as they mature. So if these don't match, then there can be some discrepancies in the relationship. Of course, if you're an Anuradha person yourself, this is one of the lessons that you might take from life, that your life does not need to have open doors 24/7. Anuradha people are very welcoming, and they are, like I mentioned, very motherly, very nurturing. But that doesn't mean that everyone should come, and that also means that everyone should stay all the time, and that also doesn't mean that no one should leave. The lesson of proper measurement, as we mentioned, the god Mitra there, the deity of measurements, the proper measure, is that they need to understand where each person's place is according to your life and to what measure you pour into this person's life. So in the same way, all of us that we are going through this transit of the new moon will be going through this. How much am I giving? Am I not giving enough? Am I giving the wrong thing? What is the right chemistry, the right chemical, the right cocktail that I need to concoct so I can foster the relationships that I want? Am I aligned with the virtues and the values and the goals of this person or not? Are they aligned with mine? Are we going in the same direction? So it's going to bring all these things deeper into perspective. And why do I say that the conflicts are not your indication? Like I mentioned, the important thing is to know that inner alignment. And especially because this period, please don't be alarmed if you do find a lot of conflicts, a lot of anger, because remember, Mercury is retrograde and is retrograde in Scorpio. None other than Scorpio, which is the season that we are in, and it's also where the new moon is taking place. But not only that, also Mars is there conjunct with that Mercury. And they are also, by the way, transiting the 10th house for a big portion of it. So because of this retrogression of Mercury and that lower degree that it has, it's going to create a certain influence in the planet Mars. And Mars can yield conflict because it's a planet of war, it's a planet of aggression, it's a planet of conflict. And then Mercury deals with communication, and then the communication wires aren't working as well during this retrogression, which is why I made another video that you can watch in my social media that I recommend about things to avoid purchasing during this Mercury retrograde period, especially because both in Mexico and in the USA, it's a time of getting deals out of purchasing things like Black Friday, getting sell bargain items at a better price. But I do give a warning about what to buy, what not to buy, and when to buy it. Going back to Mars and Mercury in this position, it can yield a lot of conflict. And even, especially if you have a lot of 8th house placements, if you have a lot of Scorpio placements, you will see that you are siphoning in more than what feels like your fair share of conflicts and just discussions and arguments. It feels like you're getting more than what you bargained for. Be on the lookout for that. I would even say anticipate it. Expect that these things can take place. People will come with more trouble, and their trouble may seem like it's related to you, but really it isn't. So there's a lesson there that I will go into more detail about. So be open to understanding that these things can take place, and I'll give some advice about how we can better manage ourselves during this period, because no transit is merely something that goes against us. The purpose of the transit is that we evolve, we grow, we learn something from the transit, and we can go to the next stage of our lives as a more evolved, as a wiser person, having grown and connecting more to our heart. You might be tested, you might be provoked, you might be pulled into other people's conflicts and storms. You may feel yourself like you are at the eye of the storm. It is normal during this transit that you feel you're surrounded by other people's frustrations. And as unfair as it may feel, there is literally nothing we can do about it. There is nothing to fix, especially not externally. So that sounds pretty bad. But the thing is that this is not a period of outward action. Like I mentioned, Mercury is retrograde and it is influencing Mars. So in a certain sense, it's kind of telling Mars, hey, be retrograde with me. You basically become influenced by that which is in your environment. Think about that social experiment where they have a bunch of people in a waiting room, and every time the clock beeps, they all get up. But one person is not in on the game, so he sees everyone get up and he can't help himself, and he also gets up because he just thinks that that's what you should do. So in the same way, Mercury retrograde is creating an influence for Mars that is kind of acting in that seemingly retrogression. So what that tells us is that it is not a period for outward action. Mars is outward action, but if it's retrograded, then it's not outward action. It is internalized, the energy. So internal action, but internal action is not really action. So what should we do? Well, of course, what we need to do is sit tight, tolerate, be conscious, have empathy and understanding about the different things that are taking place within us, and of course transmute, do internal work. Don't let it go out there. Don't go out there into the provocation, into that lead. Don't bite the bait. Stay within, stay in your core. It is not a period of outward action, it is a period of internal transformation. Why does that happen? Why does the universe, why does God, why do the deities choose to test us in this way? Think about it. Would they only try to be messing with us? Well, no. It is a time to practice. I said this during a reading yesterday for a person whose chart aligns very deeply with this. It is like going to the gym. It is a test. It is a chance, a beautiful, powerful chance to test how are you in your ability, in your mettle, to learn not to take things personally. Where do you need to go? Where do you need to position yourself? What is that internal posture that you can have where you are not provoked, that your ego does not need to come out to play, that it does not need to bite the bait, that you understand that this is a complex karmic play that you do not need to engage with necessarily, that you can be at peace as all the events take place and unfold around you. During this period, you have your chance to not take things personal, to learn to be more detached, to be conscious, to be loving, but ultimately very well positioned, very well fixated at your core. Remember, Anuradha, following the Lord, following the ethic, following the value, following the aim of life, following that which you want to have as the truth of your life. So if you are very easily provoked, then that's what you're giving out. That's the answer that you're giving to the universe. The universe is challenging you. A question is a challenge. And the challenge comes in the form of this transit. Hey, do you want to react? And if you say yes, then the universe will be accepting of that. The universe will say, okay, well, noted. Then I will give you more things to react. So watch out for that, please. Coming soon. However, good news, after the 20th of November, you will see that things are starting to get a little bit easier and easier and easier. And then after the 28th of November, the 20th is the new moon, and the 28th of November is the end of the retrogration of Mercury, you will see that things are finally flowing. You can flush everything out, and then you can spring into action more easily and more successfully, by the way. And remember, it's action as a response, conscious and deliberate, not reaction. There's a big difference there. And of course, at the end of it all, the emotions are calmer, they're clearer, the mind itself. So we're less under that deeply savage energy of moon in Scorpio and then the retrogression of Mercury. So you yourself will be less confused, you'll be clearer, and it'll be better for you to take action during that period. So rest assured, that period of action is actually coming. Let's not forget that the symbol of Anuradha is the lotus flower, which is not just any flower. Let's always remember that this flower, for one reason or another, is a flower that is very, very associated to the divine. If you reflect deeply, you'll notice that in many places, in many cultures, the lotus flower is used to adorn shrines. We see deities springing out of the lotus flower. So it is a very holy and a very sacred thing. But moreover, it is the flower that blossoms from the muddy waters, from the filth. And when it blossoms, it is completely pristine, it is pure, it is untouched by the filth. It is not touched by it. So it is not about holding any resentment and then doing action after it, but rather understanding where that comes from, deleting it completely and surpassing it. That is a true transformation. No transformation in spite of. It is a lot of gratitude to take anything that has come into our lives and move on. You don't need to remember it. You don't need to forgive and forget. It is just fine. You are over it because it is part of the play and it is not personal. It does not touch you. You can smile and you can move on brilliantly. So carry no mud into your future. Carry only a smile, clarity, and beauty. During this new moon, focus on the present so that you can aspire for that wondrous future. Do not get lost in the confusion and the arguments and the lack of clarity. Stay aligned with the grace and the fairness and the justice, the true justness of the divine. So that is my recommendation for this period. Keep these things in mind. Do not lose sight of the practices that make you feel aligned with your true nature, with your values, with that part of you that wants to grow and transform and get brighter and happier and healthier and more prosperous day by day. So that is all I want to say for now. If you find this information useful, then please leave a comment below, like, share, subscribe, and all the things so you can benefit the channel and also other people are attracted to it. I'll be very grateful for you to do so. Thank you so much. I hope you're doing well. Take good care of yourselves, and I hope you have an amazing week ahead. Thank you.